All right, we are live. Welcome again. Watchers Talk Live, coming to you live around the world. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning in. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Today, I'm going to do a couple of shout-outs real quick, and we're going to get right into it. Nothing real long. I know some days I spend four minutes or so, not quite, but you know how it is. All right, first shout-out, I want to say Sherry Putnam. She is our coordinating director. Without her, we would not have any of this possible. We would be pulling our teeth out, pulling our hair out. Omar and I would be trying to work overtime to try and get this stuff done. She is a great asset to everything that we do here, and without her, like I said, without her, it'd be rough. So thanks, Sherry. You do a great job. Pearl, you do a great job. Keep it up. Okay, also yesterday, if you guys didn't tune in, you guys missed Brian Forrester was here yesterday. He was on. He was live. We had a great talk. We only got an hour out of him, but he's going to come back, and we're going to do some more. So watch our calendar. He says he's going to come back every few months and do some stuff with us. So watch the calendar, guys. We're also in the works for planning a few things for maybe 2018, 2019. Might be some exciting stuff coming up. So pay attention to what that's going on. I'd like to say thanks to Brian Forrester for coming on here yesterday. I was like a giddy little schoolboy trying to talk to him because he's one of the guys that are just like, you know everything on the face of the earth. Today we have Daniel Dunn, a.k.a. Daniel of Doria, and if you guys here in the West don't know who he is, ask Brian Forrester who he is, because those guys know each other because they've been working together. I mean, kind of together. He and Daniel, back in the day when there wasn't much going on and Facebook wasn't as huge as it is now, he's been doing this kind of stuff for over 10 years, and he's been helping promote these guys in the UK who no one even knew who they were. And you can go to his Facebook page, you can see that he was doing that right now, especially his YouTube page. I mean, and you can see that. So I'm not going to go too much more in detail without having our guest speaking here. So, Daniel, say hello to the world.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for being on here. Daniel's been very shy in his career and hasn't done a lot of interviews. Just so you guys know, he's very humble and he doesn't do a lot of interviews, but he has done a couple come out and done a couple lately. He's done one radio show that you can catch. I was just listening in on that on his Facebook page, and then of course here we're really glad to have him come out and start promoting himself, because he doesn't really do a lot of that and hasn't in the past, but he's just written a couple of books that we're going to talk about, but we're going to talk about everything really, but he's just written a couple of books that he's really proud of, and you guys should check them out. We'll get into that. So why don't we start with, I always like to start out with asking questions of our guest. If you watch my show, you know that. Tell us about you. Tell us about how you got involved in everything, when all that happened for you, and how that evolved to where you got to where we are today.
Wow. Well, that's that's a giant context. It's like an entire life, condensed. But basically,
we got time. Take your time.
I know, and that's a great thing, right? And well, basically it started, when I was born. Basically, I've always been this kind of way anyway. Wanted to grow and expand my mind, and just move forwards. Basically, in everything I do. So I've always been expansive and infinite. I call it, the path of infinite expansion is what I call it. And I've always just been learning, and I've always, just warmed to this kind of stuff. It's like the indigenous tribes. It's naturally inbuilt into them anyway, the way they are, the way they live. And, this is just how I have been. And obviously it gets more refined as I go forwards and stuff. But, I've kind of just always been this way, to be honest with you. And then I got onto YouTube in 2008. Which, it's a time when a lot of people got on there. There was like a wave of consciousness, one of the three waves that I call it anyway. And one happened in 2008, and, in the summer of 2008. And a lot of people, even Magenta Pixie, who has her own YouTube channel, who I did the interview with that you were talking about the other day, where you saw the radio interview. We kind of like got into the YouTube at the same time. Like me and her, and a lot of other people as well, like these little circles that some of them as well are still like really strong forged friendships, all the way from back then. So it's been a decade now, and obviously, that kind of like time passing by, you get to really see the person grow into who they are, do you know what I mean? And, be there as well when they need stability and, they need help and guidance and stuff. You can be there, you can be like that, person to, you know, so they can fall back on you, if you know what I mean, and then you can help them forwards to keep going and have that motivation and inspiration, you know. So there's, you know, a lot more to this conscious awakening than people realise. You know, there is a lot of people that are in the background that, you know, you're not even going to realise are there really, and some of those are the most potent beings you could even possibly imagine, you know, in all of this rise. But it's like a building, you need many different layers, you know, to be able to construct it. And obviously there's the foundational pillars that need to be the strongest out of the whole structure to be able to support the weight and everything. You know, it's kind of like that thing. But yeah, there was an awakening in 2008, and then it just went on to like 2010 towards the end and stuff, and then there's kind of like another awakening that occurred, and then obviously it like climaxed into the end of the Mayan time meter of evolution, you know, which is, they call it the calendar, but it's, you know, the Mayans didn't create the calendar. It's not a calendar to them. It's an evolution of consciousness through all different stages, you know, as it goes. And you know, that's how consciousness works, and that's how it's been working on a microcosmic level between individuals as well, you know, as we've been going forward. So, you know, it kind of got to the 21st December 2012, and, you know, that was the third big wave. And then since then, we've been into this new context, basically, of kind of like instant manifestation as well, you know, where your thoughts can instantly manifest things within your life if you hold the focus, you know, your focal point on, you know, different things and stuff. And, well, obviously, since 2008, it's just been one crazy ride, really, you know, becoming more refined, becoming more powerful, and every time that a person came along, I would help them as well. I'd be in the background helping them. If there's anybody with good information that I thought was worthy of preserving and getting it out to people, I'd be there in the background who's doing it. So I've helped all kinds of people, like even people like Santos Benaki as well, with all his stuff that he's done, because I really liked all the law stuff and all of the things he was saying as well, in the astrotheology and about all the stars and everything. Then there was like Dan Winter with like all the galactic DNA, and talking about all the galactic core cultures, and you know, the all the stuff that he was doing and stuff about DNA and bliss, and about sungasms, you know, and creating that electrical charge within the human body and within the DNA, which is, you know, one of the most, you know, important things really, is the electrical charge. And in my work as well, that's basically what it goes into. I mean, that's one of the most important things, is, you know, presence inside the person, because, you know, ultimately that's the only thing that separates the whole entire spectrum of human life and, you know, whole life in the cosmos, is how present are you to yourself, you know, and how present are you to others, and how present are you to the environment in which you live and everything, you know.
Right. I apologize if you hear that lawnmower going by. He's literally cutting the lawn about 30 feet away from me right now. So he just went down. He'll be back again. Hopefully he'll get it done quickly, and we will. He won't interfere with what you're saying. So I apologize for that. But I agree with you, because I remember back in 2008, I was doing the Ancient Aliens thing here on Facebook, but on YouTube I was actually, because I wrote my first 2 books then, and they weren't on Ancient Aliens at all. And I was doing stuff on videos on, you can still see them there, on my channel there, about prepping and getting ready in case something happened. There was a cataclysm, and see, he's going by, he's got another, looks like he's got 2 more. He'll be done. So bear with us, people. I got a lawnmower guy. I can't do anything about these landscapers that are paid to do this. So, but I was doing that during that wave. I was doing more non-spiritual stuff, more physical-based stuff at the time on YouTube. But on Facebook, I have a spiritual group on Facebook, and I have this Ancient Aliens group. So I was splitting my time between the two as time came forward, and I didn't realize until until probably about maybe 9 months ago, or maybe a year ago, how much all of that was fitting together as a whole. And I didn't see it as a whole. I saw it as separate. And and that's why my first 2 books were 2 books and not 1. I thought about writing them as 1 book. The first book is about global banking and how to get out of debt, and the other one is about prepping. And I wrote them as 1 when I wanted to write them as 1, but the publisher at the time said, no, those are 2 different audiences. Now I know they weren't. Right? No, no, they weren't.
It's true. It's
right.
like with all the stuff that I've done. Basically, I've covered the full spectrum of absolutely everything. I mean, the original Raising Eden series was I built it over 3 years. It was a series that I did for free on YouTube that I've just placed back on YouTube because I also have the most suppressed channel within human history as well, and 2 of my channels actually went down within the past week itself. So I've re-uploaded the original Raising Eden playlist with all of the original trailers as well. And like I said, it's a 53-part series, 8.5 hours long. It covers absolutely everything all in one place, basically the full spectrum of everything from UFOs to spirituality to Atlantis, the awakening, the banking system, and everything in between as well. And I've just placed that back online. And originally it was like seen by millions of people, and it had been translated into 5 different languages, and it's been seen all over the place. And people have the only reason why it survives now is because so many people helped to re-upload it, that it's actually survived on their channels. So I've taken all the pieces from different channels, and I've uploaded a few of the trailers onto a different channel that I created the other day, and I put it all into one place again. So it's back on my Daniel of Doria channel now on YouTube, which is, it's just Daniel of Doria, all one word with 2 A's at the end, because my original channel, Daniel of Doria, just got deleted, as well, back in the day. That was back in 2010. It was like 2 years old. But, so at that point I had to make a decision whether I was going to go on or whether I was going to, give up. But I decided to just keep going on because this is me, this is my life, this is who I am. So,
yeah, absolutely. So let's get into that. Why don't you tell everybody because you got 2 books. Let's talk about the first book, right? So it is the Raising Eden series, and the first book is Wisdom of the Eternal. Is that correct? Why don't you tell everybody what your books are about? Start with the first one, and go into the second one, because it's very fascinating that you have all these quotes, because the whole book is quotes, but it's one of those books where you can read all the way straight through, like you talked about in your other interview. You can read it from cover to cover if you want, or you could just, like she was talking about, open it up and take your chances and see how that works and fits in with your the way you feel. But just explain to people what the whole concept is about your books and why you wrote them.
Right. Well, basically, I was just using the best parts of myself, my most potent, powerful strengths, to be able to bring them forward and give them as a gift, for humanity and the world. And, that's what everybody has in their life. They have a gift, and they have to, give it to the world, because our gifts aren't even made for us. They're not meant for us. They're meant for the world to be, put into the world. And that's how you can move the world forward and stuff. So it really just started, from a vision that I had a long time ago. It was 2 different timelines. One was a timeline I saw that was really, really beautiful, where the human race was exploring the stars in these giant, spacecraft, like cigar-shaped ones. And it was just absolutely beautiful, like Edens within the crafts and stuff and everything, like miles wide, some of them like hundreds of miles wide and stuff, and then the other vision was another one where the human race wasn't free, and it was like a hive collective locked down into a mainframe and completely controlled, and if you unplugged one of the beings from the Matrix, it would get severely, afraid, because it's not used to being alone in its own mind anymore. That's how subjugated the human race could be. And the human race was divided into 2 like different species at that time, from this vision. And the vision was just so horrific and tyrannical that I just decided that, straight away I knew what I had to do. I had to create the timeline, to be able to exist in the future now, do you know what I mean? You've got to plant a seed, and, for anything to exist, it has to be open to the possibility of its own existence. Mm-hmm. So what you can do is you can take these timelines that you want from the future and plant them in the now, and live them in the now, and then you can actually create them in the future, do you know what I mean? So you're always creating and stuff. So Raising Eden basically is about raising Eden within the individual, so they're becoming in a relationship with the higher self, they're becoming more potent, powerful and stronger and certain in themselves, and it gives you like the practices and daily practices that you can do to do that, and to really forge a relationship with your higher self. So like you said, with the prepping stuff, you wanted practical stuff, and the same here. I didn't want this stuff to be like fairy tales and fantasy and mystical. I want it to be based in fact and reality. I wanted something practical and direct that people could actually use every day, you know, from that moment forward. So not only does it actually cover, you know, the spiritual aspects, you know, that people can use and become a really potent, powerful force and awaken them, you know, and waken them up into their own power, it actually activates the DNA at the same time and fires it up. Because the reason why it's in the form that it is, the simple quotes and stuff, is because it, you know, the wisdom itself is imbued with so much potency that, you know, it activates the DNA and it just wakes people up. And well, you know, the quote itself, the quotes are all that people need really to look into, and then they'll just they'll have so many different ideas and so many layers to just each quote. It's, you know, it's like an onion basically, where you can just read one of them for the day, and you know that could be enough. It's like you said, you can skip to anywhere in the book and read it like in bibliomancy, basically, like Magenta Pixie was saying as well, which a lot of people do, like a daily practice thing. Or you can just like read it from the start to the end as well. It just like flows, all covering every subject. And the first book was basically establishing the context of everything. So it goes into a lot of like love and creation and infinity itself, and the electromagnetic fractal holograph in, you know, in which we're actually living in with now and stuff. So it sets the context. Whereas the second book is more on the actual divine practical knowledge and the application of all of it as well. You know, but within the two books, and I've just actually finished the third book 2 days ago, finished writing it. So it's actually, I've actually created a trilogy. That, you know, that's what I received. It became a trilogy. So I was just in the editing process for the third one and stuff. But all in all, together, it's, you know, amongst the most powerful work that's out there for everything in one place. And, you know, it's very practical and direct, Earth or even beyond the Earth, that wouldn't be able to use it and become more powerful unto themselves, you know, and more certain and, you know, stronger. So ultimately, it's just about raising Eden within the individual, and then individually on a individual level, and then collectively raising it together. And in the future, you know, depending on how many people, you know, come to it and learn about it, it's raising Eden within the world collectively as a human race as well. So that's ultimately the goal, to establish in the future spiritual communities, you know, self-sufficient all over the world, you know, with spiritually empowered people that are connected to the higher self and have that daily practice and awareness. So that's about it.
I like that. Now your third book, can you give us any insight about what that's about, or should we wait because that hasn't hit the market yet? What do you want to do with that?
Yeah, I can give some insight. I mean, it's like, it's one flowing long work, you know, it's not like divided, like you says, into many, many different books. It kind of, my work's like a spiral, a fluid spiral that's constantly getting bigger and bigger and larger, and it all fits into one itself, you know, into each other. And it just like, because that's what all the forces in the universe are, they're all curving, you know, back to the original source from whence they manifested, you know. It's like going down a plug hole. And, you know, I mean, you know, I'm actually doing painting at the moment and stuff, so I'm actually using the forces of the universe to actually create paintings. Right. I'm actually, I've got like this special technique I do where I kind of like tie like a rope to the roof and I put the paintbrush on it, and I just let the forces do their own like curvature, and it creates a map, like a Stargate on the page, you know, maps it all out basically. But that's just one of the, like, the funny things I do, you know, in my spare time and stuff. But yeah, like some of the next book, it just basically, you know, like it says, is, you know, there's not a soul on earth who can't gain loads of strength and power and, you know, and insight and certainty and love, you know, from what's actually inside all the Raising Eden books and stuff, you know, and, you know, raising them up, and, you know, it's going to make their own inner true voice, you know, a hell of a lot stronger and stuff, you know, so they can go into the world and, you know, deal with everything that's going on and stuff. And, you know, the third book, it's a long time coming because, you know, this stuff, I started the concept, you know, the original vision was received 10 years ago, so it's 10 years work now, and, you know, it's only really, like, you know, today, in the last few weeks, I've actually started, you know, stepping forward properly and stuff. You know, like the second book, one of the most important things about the second book, I suppose, is to empower people, you know, on the physical level, the mental environment level, the emotional level, and the spiritual realm as well, you know. And, you know, they have their own names for all of them in the third book, you know. I won't go into the names and stuff that I've called stuff, but it's also creating the, you know, like I said, practical direct knowledge, creating the 4 foundational spheres of life, you know, and the existence, of anybody is comprised into 4 different spheres, which are the health, health of the body and looking after yourself, and not just on a health level, but also on all the levels, like the mental and emotional and spiritual as well. Then there's the work sphere, which is not just your worldly work, where you sustain yourself in the world and working to get money, to pay for your house and your rent and to feed yourself and stuff, but also your spiritual work. There has to be a balance between your worldly work and your spiritual work. And then there's the the sphere of relationship, which is God is the total sum of all relationship. So everything is, like I was speaking about contexts earlier, contexts of the world, and everyone's stuck in the context of money. So there's always competition. Therefore, there's always that self-destructiveness, two forces opposed to one another, because the consciousness, the environment in which it's in, the consciousness is split into 2 different fractured states from the get-go. So in order to have a peaceful world, it can't be done with money, sadly. I know people say money is a tool. Yes, it is a tool, but ultimately the fracture has already started by actually having the idea of money in the first place, if you know what I mean. There has to be something that's created that's more holographic in nature, that's more fluid, and that's the way to solve that problem, towards the future anyway. I'll go more into depth in that anyway, but there's a lot of that in the books and stuff anyway. But the last pillar ultimately is the spirituality pillar as well. So you've got the health pillar, the work pillar, the relationship pillar, and the spirituality pillar. And the spirituality pillar on itself, covers the context of everything as well, because spirituality just means basically, what's outside of space and time as well. It's the full, the full beingness of absolutely everything, and that's what spirituality is. And a lot of people don't realise that spirituality, people are spiritual beings, and we're speaking about contexts again, because contexts are very important when it comes to consciousness and creating an environment for growth and for learning as well. So, come from the perspective that you are a spiritual being having a human experience, because then you place yourself within a context of something that's far grander, far more greater than what you are, which means that you yourself have you planted the seeds for your own awakening and enlightenment, basically, because you've created a context to grow, infinitely, forever, basically. Right. So, it's very important that people understand that. Everybody's spiritual. Some have forgot, some haven't. That's the only difference.
Right, and I think a lot of it is because people are in different aspects of their life, but so sometimes people are just focusing on the mundane because that's what they get caught up in, like you were talking about. The whole thing has to do with it, and I didn't realize writing the books that I wrote, I didn't realize that all of this was going to come back around. It was all going to be encompassed into one thing. Now I'm glad that it was, but I didn't know that consciously. Obviously, subconsciously, I must have, because I was focusing myself and I kept pointing myself in a closer and closer environment, going to that bottleneck to where I am now, to where I've realized all of that actually came together. And you're talking exactly like that with the, you already got that. You've been working on it for 10 years. And isn't it weird that I've been working on it for 10 years? It's that 2008 time period that
the awakening wave.
Right, that I think, and that's when it hit me as well, just like when it hit you, and that's bizarre. And then we started coming forward, and I know other people that I've talked to that have had the same thing, where 2008 was sort of a place where they made life changes, and here they are now. So it's really weird. We can get into that maybe at some point and talk to people and figure that out, But I agree with you. I agree with you 100%, and I wanted to reiterate for the people what you were talking about with the whole money issue. The environment is created there that unfortunately puts us in a adversarial position with, the poor and the middle class and the rich, or in most cases just the poor and the rich. And then we start acting like they do because we're trying to get that corporate ladder, where you stabbing the guy in the back, and there was a comedian who had a knife that had a double-edged, and he said that's the corporate ladder knife, so you can stab the guy who's about to try and stab you in the back while you're trying to stab another guy in the back, right? So you can stick him and get up the ladder, and that's horrible that we laugh at that, but it's true, because that's the environment that has been created, like you were talking about, that we're stuck in. And the real utopia, the real Eden, is with within us, and the only way that we're going to be able to make that happen, and disclosure won't happen until we do it, you, me, and everybody else that is going to be spiritual enough to create this reality for us. And you were talking about that as well, with creating the reality of the future. We have to have the intent in ourselves to do that. And I just wanted to reiterate that really quickly without taking up too much of your time, because this is about you, not me. But I wanted to show the people how, if you look at the interviews that we've had in the past, how often the interviews in the past, even though these people have many different topics that they're talking about, or that you think their background is, that we have psychics on here, we have mediums on here, spiritual people on here, people that go out, like Brian yesterday, who go out and look at ruins, yet we're all saying the same things. Isn't that bizarre how different genres are all coming back to one another? So yeah, I didn't want to take that away from what you were saying, because I agree with you 100% in what you're saying, and I love the idea of your books, because it's just, I could never write that many quotes or come up with them, and so you said really quickly, and then you passed over it, and I wanted to go back to that. Dell us about that. Now you're saying that you received this information of everything that you're doing. So you channeled that information. Did you channel that from your higher self, or do you think it was another entity above that? Was it your spirit guides? Where did you get that information from?
All of the information came from, basically, a simple way of putting it is, great works are the product of great relationship. Therefore, all of the information came from me having a great relationship with my higher self, basically, and bringing that to the forefront, and embodying it within my human form. But I also had another spiritual experience, a long time ago, where, I actually experienced the embodiment of my higher self for a few seconds, and then I was back in my body again. And that kind of experience, even for a few seconds, gives you the passion for a lifetime, because it's giving you something that's outside of what was known to you in this form, if you know what I mean. So then I realised, that was me all along, if you know what I mean. So the human part of me is just playing its little game or whatever. And then the funniest thing was, I started looking at, I chose a certain symbol, for my YouTube channel and stuff. Then I looked in the, over the years, the symbol that I actually chosen was actually, I found it to be carved all over the Egyptian walls and stuff, and I actually understood what it actually meant. It's like the big sun with all the little suns handing them babies and children below it and stuff. That's a symbol of the higher self in the individual, and fragmenting into many different parts, into this domain. So somebody in ancient Egypt or in the past, it wasn't even the Egyptians that built the pyramids anyway, or any of that stuff. They were created a lot longer ago than that. There's actually been artifacts that have been discovered, I can't remember which country it is now. It's Eastern Europe somewhere. Anyway, can't remember the exact country. But they've actually dated all of these things they've found back to like 11,000 years ago. Now all of the Isis and all of the Egyptian gods and deities and stuff, they've actually got carbon dating on them that tracks them back to 11,000 years ago or more, if you know what I mean, which puts the dates back even further. But there is star maps etched inside the pyramids that tell you when they were built as well anyway, and when they were aligned with the stars. That's also on my page as well. But there's also, there's not just that kind of stuff. It's like all of the pyramidical structures on the earth and everything, they're all aligned with the stars above, so microcosmic, they create macrocosmic stellar spin, and it's like you said, all of this work that everybody's doing, it's all little fragments of the same thing, because Dan's winter work goes into stargates and the fractality of things and stuff, and even me doing these books and putting all these words into these books in the most simple form, that I could, because it would, if I could go into any subject, any quote, and create an entire book on it if I wanted to, but that's why I've had to compress them so much. It's basically just, this is the only form that I could possibly put it in to get all of the information out there and all of the, imbued consciousness and stuff, So it's absolutely amazing.
I agree. It is. It's amazing completely. And like my third book, which you were talking about with the pyramids, and my third book is called Orion Rising, and on the cover of the book has the pyramids and the constellation of Orion right above it, directly above it, correlating with the pyramids itself. And I did that on purpose. I made that whole cover myself to show. There's a theory that when the pyramids were built, at the time they were built, the constellation of Orion was in fact directly above. So when they built the pyramids, they correlated with the Orion's belt and the constellation of Orion. So in that book that I wrote, which is going to be a trilogy, I have two other books. One I'm writing, the second book I'm writing now. Third book I've already got in my head. I just don't have it all down yet, and I will. I'll get that stuff out every couple of years. I'll get a book out, and we'll get that going too. But that's this. It plays into exactly what you're saying, where if you look at things now, we're starting to realize that we're much older as a race. Scientists are starting to see that our DNA doesn't come from here, that we came from someplace else. Now that poses the question of all the theories, where did we come from? And then there's all those theories about where we came from and how we got here. And we don't know the answers to that yet, and I don't know the answers to that yet. I just know that we're not from here, that we're from somewhere else. And then we came here, at least that's what I believe now, because of everything that I'm seeing, that we're just from here. And then we've been or if we have been here, we've been here for a lot longer than we think we have. Just like you were saying, in at least 10,000 years. But now there's that group where it's 10,000 years, but then there's also the possibility of us being in here even longer, but also looking at that we terraformed the place. And we'll have to figure that stuff out as time goes. And I think a lot of that has to do with work that you're doing, because your work is helping people to be empowered and to spiritually grow. And I think that like you just said, like you mentioned a couple minutes ago, we as a human race, we as the people on this planet need to, and this is what we're about here at Watchers Talk. We've been working towards this, and the people that we associate with, the people that we talk to. Pardon me, I'm having problems. I think it's because they're cutting the grass there, and I'm having allergy problem with the grass. Anyway,
oh no.
Yeah, right. I'm getting phlegm. Sorry about that. So what I believe is that we as a people have to become more conscious and more spiritually aware, and because we're getting to a point where we need to vibrate at a different level, like Omar was saying earlier when we were talking about the vibration level of the planet now and the human race, and then the frequency is at the wrong frequency. It used to not be here at this frequency, and this frequency is making us a little more violent. And I think that guys like you who are doing this work and bringing this to the forefront is going to help us all change that vibration and get us back to a place where we can be more peaceful and grow as a race instead of compete so much. And like you just said about a time when there isn't any money and we have a utopian in Eden where we have self-sufficient people who are in villages or in cities or in states that work without money. And I wanted to make sure that the people understood how you were going with that. You honestly believe that? Am I right that we should be working towards that point?
Well, we need to first of all, the most important thing is learn the spiritual aspects of things, and and having basically refine all of the negative traits out of your being, and we try and embody all of the positive traits within your being as well. And one of the things about truth is, it's not, you're not seeking truth. You don't seek truth. Truth is something that you live. And in order to embody the truth, people are going to, they're going to absolutely have to drastically change the way they live. And be conscious on absolutely everything they do. Look into every single little detail. Even make a checklist, one by one that they can tick up on. Like their diet, their health. And what they're eating and stuff, what they're even, what their minds are looking into, because there's so much information there now within this world, and it's easy to get over, saturated with information as well. And evil likes to be studied. So make sure that if you are studying dark matter and dark subjects, you have a balance to what you're doing with an equal and opposite, good positive energy as well at the same time, because otherwise it will try to claim you. That's what energy does, it tries to claim you. So if you embody the positive aspects of truth, compassion, kindness, they will become stronger within the world anyway. And if you can do that, then not only does it protect you from the darkness, but it's like building your own inner armor, your spiritual armor, your own spiritual armor that the darkness can't penetrate you, because all of this stuff that we're talking about now can only exist within an environment of like you say, a lower frequency or a lower dimensional band, of light. So if you can create and cultivate an environment of high light in yourself individually, then we can construct one together, together consciously and collectively, then you can go from there. And a lot of people, they get these ideas and they try and, let the mind solve the greater problems. But the human mind is made, the ego body human mind is made to do the day-to-day tasks from day to day, the small, problems, and create solutions to them and stuff. But if you want to live a greater life, you have to basically connect with the greater mind within inside yourself, because the greater mind is what can deal with the great problems, and that's what we need here. So collectively, if we want to get to where we're going, we have to magnetize naturally those people around us that are supposed to be with us, working with us. It's not a mind thing where you think, oh, I'm going to work with this person, I'm going to work with this person. It's more of a heart thing where you naturally get magnetized to certain people, and you recognize these people from their energy as they come into your life. And you think, oh yeah, I can do this with that person, and we can do that. And together, if we do it and we work together like what we're doing now, we can create this powerful, tool for awakening, basically. So, it's that kind of thing.
And I agree with that 100%. You're absolutely right. And the only way that any of that is going to happen is that guys like you and I and everybody here, watchers, what we do here, and all of the people that we're associating with and working with, we all have to work together to get it done, because you and I both know that the powers that be don't want us doing any of this. They want us to be slaves and just do what we're told to do and just continue working and doing what we're doing to make their pockets fatter, and and that way they can wear bigger wigs, as it were, and or the bigger hats now that that they do with the Pope, and so we do know that. Now I have a question from the audience here. We have Sherry Putnam says she also works with us at Watchers Talk, but she's watching and she's asking a question. What is the point in duality, and how do you conquer it?
Well, you can see creation as a learning environment, something that we're descending into to learn, to get back to. And, that's a very, very good question as well, because there's the whole, Garden of Eden thing in the beginning and stuff. Right. About, why would people need to get out of here? But I think the context is basically something like, it goes into like Dan Winter's work as well, about if we were think of the film, The Avatar, when the Na'vi are there and stuff. The Na'vi were very, very powerful and very in harmony and symbiotic relationship with the Earth, and with their planet. I think it's called Pandora or something.
Yeah, something close to that.
Yeah. And the Na'vi, they were having a symbiotic relationship with the world and stuff, but then these dark forces came in, from somewhere else, from the greater darkness, as you could call it, just the same as what's happened here in this world today and stuff. These forces come in and stuff, and they start knocking the balance and trying to create a different context, and subjugate the population and stuff, and expose them to all these kind of things. But basically, the dualistic thing, when you come face to face with something that dark and that powerful, I call it the predator consciousness of the abyss, basically, because it's this predator consciousness that comes in and just preys on people and just takes over them. And well, I mean, one of the big things that people need to understand is God the Creator is one. Everything is one with God, basically. So God doesn't, although He allows free will, He doesn't create a toxic environment Himself. He's created a pure environment of harmony. And the only way these beings can create the environment to be able to do the things that they do is by not only infecting the creation itself by going into it, but also by corrupting all of the creations inside the creation as well. So if you spiritual armor, obviously you're going to get influenced. Because in the power in a being is concentration. The more concentrated being in their energy, the more powerful and the more influence they will exert on the beings and the people around them and the environment as well. So basically, the weaker minds are always subservient to the stronger minds. So that's one of the reasons why people need to get stronger in themselves themselves and stuff and everything. But you know, in order to be able to where the human race was initially, you know, in Eden, you know, when it first started, is to have to be able to not only face fully all of this darkness within the world and everything that's happening, and face the darkness in ourselves. First, we've got to face that. And we've got to try to organise amongst ourselves, you know, together, to organise, because up until now, the criminals are the ones who got organised. You know, the good people didn't really have to as much, you know, because the criminals were trying to do something. So now we just need to make sure we're trying to do something. The good in the world are getting organised as well together. You know what I mean? And that's what's happening now. With that's why we're doing this kind of thing. That's why you've written your books. That's why I've done my books. That's why Brian Forster was on yesterday. All these little fragments doing their own little things, all coming together to accumulate in this massive shift in consciousness that's happening. And the difference between now and the ancient world is that all these people that are aware and awake today, you know, they're looking for direction, and there's a lot more people now, you know, that are aware of everything that's going on, you know, far more than there's ever been before. So the shifts obviously are a lot more faster, you know, which, like you were saying earlier, increases the resonance of the earth, because it's all linked, you know, all of us are linked into the earth, you know, and you know, including like where all the land is now, for example, is a direct reflection of our resonance. You know, if we were vibrating differently, certain lands would sink, you know, and certain other lands would rise up. You know, just like what happened in the past with, you know, ancient Atlantis and some of the lost civilizations and stuff. But basically, you know, because the Navi, as I was saying earlier, weren't used to this kind of darkness coming in, because they'd never experienced anything like it before. You know, it's kind of like the human race. You know, they don't know what's going on or why it is the way it is and what's happening. You know, because obviously there's forces and great forces within the world that are in the world greater than some of the forces who can oppose them, because, you know, to get stronger in yourself. That's what I always come back to, you know, the individual thing, to become stronger in yourself, you know, individually, and then collectively organised together as a force for good, you know, from this point onwards and stuff. And you know, like Dan Winter goes into like this thing where he says like the DNA, you know, we need to basically create antibodies against the darkness that we didn't have before, because we never faced anything like it. So, you know, you could say that everything, like the earth is like a cell, and we're learning to fight a disease, you know, disease that's come into the earth and it's coming from somewhere else, and we're learning the antibodies to be able to defeat it, you know, and once we've managed to be able to defeat this darkness on this level, then we'll be able to obviously go back out into the stars and create the glorious galactic civilization that we once had in the distant past. Because right now, today, you know, we're living within the ruins of what we once were. That's kind of my, you know, some of my thoughts and, you know, perspective on kind of things, you know. So.
But you know, I agree with that 100%, because you know, literally we had this society here at one time, and who knows how long we've been here. There's some suggestion. You know, we were trying to talk about that. Omar and myself and I were talking to Brian about that. That you know, if we had lived on Mars, and we lived here on Earth at the same time, that had to have been millions of years ago. And even if you come away from that and say, let's forget about that and look at the time period of Atlantis and what was going on then, and all the theories that we hear and the stories of the technology and the way of life at that time on this planet, even if you don't say we were grander than that and just say that we were here as Atlantis, then that was in and of itself a it was a utopian society that was worldwide, and it was more technology than we have now, better technology than we have now, a lot more peace than we have now, so even better than we are now. So even if you just look back and say that was 10,000 years ago, we were at one time in a grandiose scale, and a human race with a lot more running force than we are now. And we were trying to get back to that. I agree with you. Hold on. So let me ask you this. For those people who say, you and I are farther down the path, obviously, than most people, we've already had our start. For most people, say, that are just trying to figure that out, and they're just tuning in, say, to or finding you or me or all the stuff that's going on, and they're saying, how can I help? How can I do this for myself? What do I need to do to start? To give those people your perspective of what they need to do for themselves to start being more spiritual.
Well, basically, they just need to make sure that they put themselves, they have like a want, that inner desire to want to know more, and just be open to everything as well, And I mean, even before I even started on YouTube, I spent 2 years like a sponge just on YouTube, just soaking up videos, soaking up information. I hadn't even started. I need to build a context, a powerful context, like I said earlier, an environment of learning for myself, inside myself, because, it's, although you can't see it physically, it is, you're creating domains inside the self, like on an emotional level, on a mental level, as well, and on a spiritual level inside yourself. So, it's like having a field that you need to fill up with, good seeds and good plants and stuff. So, I just say soak up as many videos as you can on all of the different subjects, and just follow your heart, and basically don't resist your heart on what it's saying with your mind in any way, And then if you keep doing that, you will be on the right path anyway. It doesn't matter how powerful you are or where you are on your journey. There's no way to measure where a person is on the journey anyway, to be honest with you. Right. Apart from, when you get really powerful and potent, you can start sensing energy, if you know what I mean, a lot more. But, their gifts and abilities that come, far later on. But basically, everybody has that inbuilt ability anyway of self and the soul anyway, because everyone, is a soul. They don't have a soul, they are a soul. That's basically what we are. So, like, you just change context of everything. But make sure you're building context of learning for yourself, and just make sure that you've got that desire to want to know, and don't be afraid to message people, like message me, message you, talk to people, just move forward with it. If you've got just message us both, or just message who you're interested in and stuff, and most of the time they'll like you doing it, they'll want you to message them, because that's their life, they spent a lot of time and energy, getting to where they've got to, and it is who they are, so right. Just have an open mind, and just be yourself, and just don't hold back with your heart.
Right, and I think that we're lucky to live in a time period that we are in now, because of how bad things have gotten, and now we've gotten to a point where we do have the internet, we do have this media that smartphones and computers, that we literally have the entire world's knowledge at our fingertips. So, and it's not like before we had to go to the library and hope that you could find a book, and then you had to be subjected to the librarian or the company who owns the library's ideology of what they want to put in their library, and keep certain books away from you to read. Now, even if they're banned, because here in America there's a lot of books that are banned and you can't get the books here, you can go online and you can still get those books and read them. But you couldn't do that before, because they wouldn't allow you to buy them inside the United States, because they didn't like what they had to say. See, so they would ban them. Well, now that information is out there, and we can get it out there. And so, just like Daniel said here for you guys, YouTube. I tell people that when I was making videos on YouTube, YouTube's your best friend. You can find anything that you want on there. Not just that, but just the internet itself. The different search engines around the world that you can go to, Google and all those other search engines. You can find anything that you want, anything that you're interested in. And I agree with you what you just said. For those people going, a lot of people are afraid to question. A lot of people are afraid to ask questions. I've noticed that they're even doing this show. We'll have thousands of people tuning into the show, and they'll be talking. They may talk to each other, but they don't ask questions directly as much. And sometimes I think they're afraid to step up and ask the question, and it's kind of weird. And I wish that more people would engage more and ask questions and not be so shy, because we know they're there. We know that there's people watching us and listening to us right now, and not very many of them are asking questions. But they want to hear what's being said. And for those people who are afraid to ask questions, that's okay too. Eventually you'll get to that point. Just like Daniel said, you just have to look into yourself and start looking at YouTube and listen to guys like me, listen to guys like him, and question everything. Don't be afraid to look at many things. You should, like he said, open your mind. Have your mind open your mind, and don't be afraid to ask questions and just run with that. I mean, otherwise, where are we going to go? How are we going to get to where we're at? And it's kind of like The Secret. You know how they had that secret that they had, and it's kind of like that, where getting back to getting the negative energy out of your brain and out of your psyche, and getting positive positive energy in. Like he was saying, you have to reinforce that because we're like a cell that's trying to defeat an evil, a disease that we never had to incorporate before. And I really like the way you put that. That's why I wanted to go back to that and mention that again, just because that was really cool that you did that. Now, where do you think? Let's talk about that. Where do you think we came from as a race? Do you think that we were created here, or do you think that we came from somewhere else?
Well, that's a funny question for me because I know we came from the higher dimensions already because I've been there, and I've just come down again. So right. It's kind of I've got that experience. So I remember that form, Right. All I can describe it is inside ourselves is we're formed as pure beings of light, basically, So it's like exactly like Yoda says, we're not this crude matter or whatever, Right. Because Star Wars is awesome. And but yeah, that's the truth. The human race did descend from the high dimensions into the lower dimensions where we are now, and everything's obviously vibrating on. It's like we're all trying to get back to the source again, but why we're here. You've got to enjoy the ride. You've got to enjoy, every single moment because it's about being present. It's about becoming stronger. And like I said, building that armor, that spiritual armor, inside yourself, on all your levels of your, domains, which is, your physical, your mental, your spiritual, and your emotional and everything, And you've got to protect yourself in all of them areas and be able to identify which ones that, don't allow your thoughts and your emotions, don't allow them to direct you or your life. Make sure that you've got power to direct them onto things as well and stuff, And it's the same with energy, of your energies and stuff, because, it's like your host, that woman that you was on about, she was on about the, the polarity of the universe and stuff, and, the polarity of the universe, like I says, in God's creation, there was just benevolence, there was love. God itself created all form from itself. It created a magnetic field that splits energy off, and it creates a veil. It's like, I'm different from you, you're different from me. We're seeing different entities on this level. Your computer, my computer, or, the curtains in your room or whatever, are seen as different objects and stuff. But God, that's the illusion of the Creator and this oneness. It created and splintered and split off parts of itself through love itself, to create all form and dimension and to allow existence to exist. And that's why we can actually have dimensions in the creation, because of the love of God the Creator, the one Creator. And, the negative energies, they're very destructive and grounding and constrictive in nature, but the positive energies are very creative and uplifting and expansive in nature. And, people need to learn about energies and, the attributes as well, because we're within a universe of energies, within a universe of information, and people need to learn that, negative energies, for example, they're unstable in the manifestation, whereas the positive energies are stable in the manifestation. So, you need to use both of them, ruled wisely by the heart and not the mind, basically, So the destructive tendencies, in the human individual, basically comes from lack of self-love, and also a cumulative effect by being within the context as well of, like I said earlier, the fractured state of consciousness, like money, that context, a toxic context basically from the get-go, Right. So people need to go beyond all of that, So, like I was saying earlier with the emotional thing and not allowing your thoughts and emotions to direct you, it's the same with the negative energies. Don't allow them to direct you. Instead, direct them. Because otherwise they'll end up destroying you. And like I said, it all stems from love and lack of self-love, and that's just on an individual basis. It's also on a collective level as well. So. Right,
and I've talked about that. For a lot of my life, somehow I figured that out when I was, I don't know, early on, 15 years old or so, and I tried to explain. I've never written a book about it. Maybe I should. Maybe that's what my problem is. But I try to explain to people that your energy, my energy, all of our individual energies. First of all, we need to take control of that. We need to take control of that and be aware of it, because as we interact with each other as individuals, even as strangers on this planet, when you interact with them, when you're out in public or you're online somewhere waiting to buy something or pay for something, or you're in traffic and somebody cuts you off and you raise the fist at them because they made you mad because they cut you off, you have to understand understand that the reason that you got mad was not because they made you mad, because the only person who can make you mad is yourself. If someone says a word to you or words to you and it makes you angry, it's because you put strength and energy and power into the words they said. And you know that they're trying to make you mad, and you accepted that, and then you turn that back on them, and that just creates an issue where you just get more and more adversarial. Whereas if you're the other way around and you can take control of that, and I know that goes back to the whole spirituality, and you hear Jesus saying, turn the other cheek, but you don't really need to turn the other cheek. You just need to take control of the situation and be aware of how you're projecting energy to other people and what your intent is. If you intend to be a peaceful person, you can be without turning the other cheek and being a victim when somebody is being mean to you. You can do both. You look at the Dalai Lama and look at things in history where you see people doing just that, and I think that Daniel was touching on that, and I think that I've been trying to tell people that my whole life. We need to be more aware of what somebody does to us and then just go, was it that important? He cut me off. Okay, whatever. Watch that guy, because someone just like him down the road here in a half mile is going to cut him off right back, and you can go see now. There's karma. It's apropos. So don't worry about that stuff, and take care of yourself and be nice to other people, because that's what you'll get back from them, and eventually that propagates everybody being nice. I once proved that while I was on a train, and I told my son at the time, I said, look around. I said, it used to be a time when a woman would walk into a train and men considered themselves gentlemen, and they would stand up and let the woman sit down and take the place. But these modern days, no one does that anymore. They're too self-centered and selfish. However, it's contagious. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, watch. The next person who came on board, who was either elderly or a woman, I stood up and said, here, please sit here. Oh, no, please sit here. You deserve this seat more than I do. I can stand. And at the very next stop, when someone else came on who was a woman or was an elderly person, the very men who didn't get up before that 3 stops earlier started getting up and giving their seats to other people. So it takes one little thing, and this is what Daniel's talking about, guys. I know I'm talking a lot, but I'm trying to help you guys understand. That's what my job is as the host, to help you understand what my interviewees are talking about, is that we individually, one little thing that we do can contribute to a snowball effect that changes a lot of things. And I believe that, and that's why I'm here now talking to Daniel. And that's why he's here now talking to me, because he believes that as well, and that all of us together collectively are going to be able to change things. And you have to understand that if enough of us think it will happen. And enough of us want this whole world to be a better place, it will happen. Am I wrong in that, Daniel? What's your thinking on that?
No, you're absolutely right, and that was the purpose of Raising It in the first place, or any of the experience that I've had, even the spiritual ones. It's to use that knowledge right now in the world for the people, and to bring that about, and, like all the energies, as you were saying, because we live within a conscious living universe, never forget that, the consciousness is what births everything, and energy is just the movement of consciousness, within the universe. So all the energies, such as truth and love, they're all conscious living energies that, over time can get stronger in you if you embody them and stuff, because over time you can become binded, in love, you can become binded in truth, and you become binded with your destiny, you can, put all them into your body. And, the powers of the negative and the positive, they're yours to command at any time, the powers of destruction or creation, the powers of the mind or of the heart, and all you need to do is basically, like it says on the title of my second book, which is Raising Eden, and Singular Truth, basically. It's you need to connect with the singular living truth within inside yourself, and it will create your restraint, it will create your stability, and you'll be able to use all your powers, wisely for, the good of all life, basically. And, one of the good things about all of this, and I know we're in a world that's, the context is like kind of like poisonous, to a large extent in many ways. You have the the ability to not engage with that paradigm as little or as much as you want. You can be doing your own thing. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Worry about what you're doing and what you're building and what you're creating. Put all of your time, your focus and your energy into because your focal point determines your reality. And it's like Einstein said as well, whatever you resonate to, that's the reality you're going to get, And, one of the things that brings me a smile in my eyes, though, is the fact that, we're all living within the place that best suits us for our energy within space and time, for the complete purpose that we're here to do. So it's always chosen as the place for us to manifest and have life, the perfect place. And we're within the perfect place now to have and manifest life. We're here with great purpose, and this is what we're doing. This is why we're here.
Right. I agree with that, and we need to learn more. I think to work together the way we did in the distant past. We've gotten so far away from that we've forgotten that it's so easy to do that. It's not as hard as people think it is. Some people say, "Well, that's easy for you to do." No, it is easy for you to do. You just need to do it. All you have to do is be aware of what's happening around you. Be aware that there's negative around you, and defend against that. And how do you defend against that? Well, one way is just like we talked about. One way is you ignore it. You don't give it the power. It has to have power. It has to get power from you, and it has to try and claim you, like he said before, where the energy will try and claim you. And the only way it can do that is that it has to gain power from you. You have to give it power. And when you give someone else power over you, you know that you give them control over you. And it's the same thing with the negative energy in the universe. If you give it power, then you're also giving it control, because now you're responding to it, and it's making you angry because that's what it wants, or it's making you afraid because that's what it wants. And the more that you give into it, and all you have to do is stand up to it. That's it. We're more powerful as individuals than anything else. Nothing can harm you because you're an immortal soul. You will live forever. Your energy, and right now you're occupying this body, and we're here because we're here to learn what we're here to learn. So all we have to do at that point is just say no. People are always worried about being possessed by some, devil or something. And the only way that's going to happen is that you have to ask them into you and want to do that, and then you have to give yourself over. And all you have to do otherwise is just go no. Am I wrong in that?
No, you're absolutely right. I always say, detach the cords of chaos and confusion and attach the cords of love and truth. And every single moment within somebody's life, is a chance to build a new life and a greater life. Just make sure, like I said earlier, that you're always open and you're always ready for it and stuff. And our lives aren't really our lives don't really belong to us anyway. They're not our own. So you should basically just be present to yourself and stand in your own integrity always. Because it's your integrity that is the core of who you are and all your spiritual life, and you can create a powerful, strong integrity, like I said, not only will you have an influence over all the beings of lesser integrity around you, be able to influence thought within the mental environment, but you'll also, if you can look into deeper, you'll be able to project your own self into the world, and, make sure that you always project a position of strength into the world, because then it, conflict doesn't find you as much either, because it's like in the animal kingdom as well. You could use nature as a prime example, and how the animal world is, because nature itself is a reflection. Everything around us is a reflection, that's there for a purpose to teach us a specific lesson, and not just people and animals and items and objects, but the actual environment itself is a learning environment. All environments are learning environments, and it goes back to why we're here within this dualistic nature that we are now. One of the reasons is to refine ourselves and create the antibodies as well that we're going to need to face the greater darkness on the on the dimensional scale, really on a multi-dimensional scale. We're growing in power because the journey never stops. We're always going to be constantly evolving forwards, apart from those who are on the opposite path of devolution. And there's there's evolution and devolution going on at the same time within this world. Not everyone's moving forwards. There's also some beings actually moving downwards as well. That's the one big thing that people need to realise as well. It's not all just one way. There's two ways going on here as well. And it's the same to do with time, for example, like the cause and effect thing. The causes and the effects, they don't always go in a linear fashion. Sometimes the effects of something can be felt long before the cause ever manifests into physicality, cause and stuff. So you got to watch out and stuff. So
right. I agree with that, and that's very important for people to understand. And we talked about that before. That intent intent is very important. Your intent for the universe is very important because if you look at the universe, there is no real good and evil in the animal world. It just is. We, I think, manifest the good and the evil, the duality a little bit more than the rest of the universe does, even though it's there. Well, I think we have that right. We have that choice. Whereas the rest of if you look at, there's no evil trees. They're just there. There's no evil plants. They're just there. But some plants are poisonous. So you could consider that evil in some way because they would harm us. But their intent isn't to harm us. They're just there. We have to go over to that plant to be harmed. Same thing with other animals. Their intent is not to harm us. Their intent is to survive. And if we get in their way, then we could consider that evil. But if we get in their way, they will do harm to us. Like if you go and play with a mama bear's cubs, she's not going to like that. She may end up killing you. So we have a question from Sherry again. Pardon me. Sherry says, she's asking you, do you see the past, present, and the future?
Yeah, but it's all simultaneous to me. It's all at the same time, So the future that we can have, you've got to do the work and put in the work now and be that focal point. You've got to be the singularity, in the now to create the future you want. And you've got to, if you're strong enough and powerful enough, and your influence will, by itself cast a large influence on everybody anyway, but you've got to be present. Presence is the key and the foundation stone of all spirituality. That is the most fundamental, powerful thing, because that's the only thing that separates everybody. If you look into the world, some people, if they're not very present to themselves, they don't accomplish much or anything, or they don't get much done, and, how can you help other people around you if you're not first present to yourself? How can you get involved and contribute to the world in need? How can you participate? How can you do anything if you're not present to yourself? So fundamentally, presence is the most foundation, one of the foundation stones for all spirituality. And there are other stones as well that I go into, there's like 4 that I pinpointed, but, it's all within the books. I basically give a lot of new insights and new foundational pillars that probably have been overlooked, but they shouldn't have been, if you know what I mean. It's like I placed them all in this book for a purpose, so people can really establish that relationship with the higher self, and they can have the daily practices, to be able to do it as well. And that in itself, just by having that, I've created a context of learning, and growth for anybody and everybody. It doesn't matter how advanced you see you are, how much you think you know or you don't know, it doesn't matter. Anybody could pick these books up, these 3 books now, this trilogy that I've just created, and they can have everything they need to know about everything from galactic core cultures to DNA to Atlantis to the ancient past, to the present, to the world they're in, spirituality, all the direct positive things you need, off the grid stuff as well a little bit, nature and all the energies and, the strengths and the weaknesses and stuff, a direct spirituality, to establish that relationship. So, that's basically what it was about, really, making sure, people have the most powerful high wisdom and the best parts of myself, to be able to, use it for their own spiritual awakening journey.
Right, and and that's like everything in a nutshell. And I think that people should go and take a look at your books, because there's a lot of information that's going to be in there that we wouldn't even be able to continue talking about here, because there's just so much. If you look at his books, they're not thin, they're thick. There's a lot of stuff that's going on there, and we need to do that as a people. We need to start understanding that. And I like I want to reiterate what you pointed out, where you said about how there's devolution going on as well as evolution. So, at that point, I think people, you need to realize, just like you had said before, that or maybe you said this when we were off air, I'm not quite sure, that when you no, you did. You said what Einstein said, where if you the idea that you have in your mind, the energy that you put forth in your mind is what's going to end up giving you the people that surround you, because you're going to start gravitating towards that group of people, and they're going to start gravitating towards you, and eventually you're going to start finding each other in the world and start gathering in larger and larger groups. Now, that's good, because the more that we do that, the more we become aware, and the more that we become aware of what's going on with our inner self spiritually, the more we're starting to figure out that, and this is what we're figuring out now, that the DNA code that we have is almost like a history book of who we are. Am I wrong in that?
Yeah, the history book contains all of the memories of every single event, emotion or thought depending on where you're looking in within the DNA, crystalline structure itself, it can tell you all the information all the way to the first human being that descended into these realms, from high dimensions and stuff, and also all of the journey in between as well, from all of the star systems that we've travelled to from that back, that ancient past, perhaps even millions or billions of years for all we know, but there seems to be different bands, like a negative bind on the polarity scale, it goes back to Orion for some reason, and a positive one goes to the Pleiades, and a lot of the Pleiades at the moment, they're not even, they can't even have life there yet, which means that we're binded to them. Our destiny lies within the Pleiades for some reason, that's our future. So it hasn't been created yet, but we're still being influenced here now by the effects of a cause that isn't even caused yet, if you know what I mean. It's the same with the Raising Eden thing. That's why I brought the cause here now, ahead of time, for people to get involved in. And it's the same with the binds of Orion as well. There's a lot of negative energies that come from the Orion constellation as well that are linked to our past and stuff. And all time is simultaneous. It's all occurring all at the same time. Time itself is an illusion. That time exists because obviously we're descended into form and dimension, and in order to have form and dimension, you have to have a slowed down effect of the manifestations of the energy from the one, because we're all part of the one. So the one created a magnetic field that allows all form and dimension to exist, but also allows time to be birthed, and also what we perceive as gravity, as well, to be able to exist, because it's a slow down effect like glue, so the manifestations don't occur all at once, so we birth into time, literally.
Right. So now, what do you think about, because I brought up the DNA and our DNA being almost like a roadmap to, like you said, to where we were from. Now, what are your thoughts on DNA? What are your thoughts on the manipulation, or the possible manipulation, and the theory of manipulation of our DNA by the Anunnaki? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think people need to get rid of the idea that we were authored by, some other race or anything, and they need to come back to that, because as soon as like another race claims ownership of humans or whatever, or as a part of us, they will try to claim us as their own, and they'll do everything they can, remember, to try to create a beachhead inside human consciousness, like an idea that they're entitled to be here, or they're entitled to do what they do to the human race, but they're not. They're not supposed to be here. That's why there's such a violent aversion to it, and that's why everybody in the world knows that something wrong is seriously happening. Something happening is going wrong. And when it comes to DNA itself is a shimmering waveform configuration. The evolution itself. The biggest factor in evolution is light and the sun, basically, and the earth, because each one represents a mirror, and the sun transforms energy from the higher dimensions into the lower ones, because everything's energy. It transfers energy from the higher realms into the lower ones, and it's got to go through the earth as well. So around the earth and around the sun are like fields, like the morphogenic field, and right. Even one pulse of light could turn the entire human race right now, this second, into something else, because the waveform, we're all a shimmering waveform of configuration of DNA, because that's what DNA is. It's not a solid structure or anything. It's also spinning. It can be recoded at any time, not just internally from us, because the DNA, it's read-write. It's not just right or whatever. And then you've got epigenetics, which is your source and soul is above genetics, so you can create yourself and evolve yourself into whatever you want to be. Like, we evolve into what we are going to become through the actions of what we do, and all of accumulation of our thoughts and everything else. So a lot of the things that's happening in this world is actually these beings that have come in are trying to turn us from one species into another, but do it within their own set of agenda as well, instead of allowing it to evolve naturally and stuff. But yeah, the biggest factor in DNA and evolution is light, because it can, in the twinkling of an eye, turn one species into another within a single second. It's not a long process, although we see like processes in certain places in the animal kingdom and all the kingdoms on the earth and stuff, from the distant past. They're just, because the body in itself adapts to the environment, you will see subtle changes over time, but all these missing links, they're never going to find them, because consciousness beings do turn from one state of being into another one simultaneously, due to light and pulsars and, radiation and stuff, so...
Right. Right. Now, I had a question earlier, and because when Sherry asked a question, she actually asked two questions, and I forgot to ask you the second question, so they just put it right back in the chat here for me. Again, I'm sorry about that, Sherry, that I didn't ask that. So she actually has two questions again, but they're both tied into the same thing. So let me ask you the question, and I apologize, Sherry, for forgetting to ask him that question. I got caught up in what he was saying, and we just moved on. So good thing she brought it back to that. So Sherry said, I'd like to ask him if he believes in the Merkaba to travel, one question, and do you believe in synthetic Merkabas? Am I saying that word right?
Well, yeah, the Merkabas, Merkaba, Merkaba. Well, basically, like I said earlier, the humans are mostly empty space. The creation is mostly empty space. So at the core of what we truly are, we're formless beings of light. So if you can create a focal point in of yourself, it is possible to travel, physically, emotionally, spiritually, or mentally within any of those domains if you have a powerful focal point. It's, in those domains and stuff, it's something I've done myself in the past because I wanted to see if it was possible, if I could. I haven't done it for about 10 years because of once I, you could leave the body at will, basically, you can, you don't really need to start, messing with that because you don't know what else, could come in because, we're dealing with a lot of forces and it's, it's not a game, when you're going at something this, at this high level and stuff. But, it is possible to be able to, because everything is within the context of consciousness and the creator, and we're the imagination of ourselves. Anything is possible because we've got the whole within each single part to be able to do anything and create anything in any domain. It doesn't matter what it is. So yeah, it is possible to create a Merkaba and go, basically, flying around and scouting for information, on any level. So in that form, as well in orb form. So
right. But, yeah, we had a psychic on here, Heather Reese. She said, getting to what you just said, the point that you just said, she had mentioned that if you leave your body and leave it too long, she said the same thing, that you could have some other entity that might show up and inhabit your body if you're gone too long.
Yeah, you could be very, very careful with this kind of thing and stuff. It's like you've got to be very careful because don't forget, if everything's one, that means that you're connected to every single part of everything all of the time, which means basically a human being is a mirror for projections of self, both good and bad, and the universe is that as well, but the human the human is the X point between all omnipresent worlds and realities. What that means is that you're the gateway that gives birth to all image. You're the gateway that gives birth to all of light and stuff. So if we're within a waveform universe of information, which is what we are, and we're receptors for information, information consciousnesses, could come in from anywhere on any level if they see a hole and think, oh yeah, I know, I'll go flying down there and see what that is, in there and stuff, and then you might have an entity inside one of your domains of your mental environment or within your emotional level or within your physical level. And these aren't just like fairy tale like spirituality, like fluff or bunkum or whatever. This is, you're emotional, you've got a mental environment, that you've got a physical environment, and you've got a spiritual environment. So don't open yourself up and allow these entities to, try and take over you, because that's ultimately this predator force from the abyss is what I call it. They basically, because they're not part of God's initial plan, they're the product of free will, basically. They have to basically create a space within the creation to be able to express themselves, and the way they do that is by, like in this world, they create a context of money that pits people against each other or something. They're creating a field so they can grow plants for themselves, so they can, because they're not connected to the source of all creator, the creator source, they can't provide the energy for themselves. Therefore, they use the creation and the actual beings within the creation to provide them with the energy. So, they're like, they're feasting on anybody, they're feasting on everything, that's because they can't get anything themselves, on an emotional level, a physical level, a spiritual level, and, a mental level, on all the levels, they're always feasting. So You know, that's one of the other reasons why people need to get, you know, spiritually strong in themselves, and they need to start organising together, you know, as a force for good as well, and creating an environment to counteract the negative environment, you know, of negativity and toxicity, you know, and poison and stuff. They need to create an environment, you know, and proper go all out, you know, the full power of the heart to bring that about into the now. And that's ultimately what Raising Eden was about, you know, empowering the individual individually, and also to be able to produce and organise together as a force for good collectively.
Right, and the only way that you can do that, let's get back to what you were saying before in the beginning, the only way that you can do any of that is that the first thing you have to do is love yourself. And you have to stop worrying about what other people are doing and work on what you're doing, and concentrate on yourself, because what will happen is that if you love yourself first, then you can love other people. But you can also, you'll project a better you. And if you project a better you, you're going to draw in better people. So those people who say might be in your life and that are looking like they're going the other direction, instead of trying to save them, they can only save themselves. Or we as a collective will save everyone, because the domino effect or the snowball effect, as everybody goes on, you have to understand that. So instead of trying to take care, everybody spends so much time trying to save everyone else that they're losing themselves, and they don't know that's happening. So the first thing you need to do is stop trying to save everybody else, and remember, look at you. Who am I? And find the love for yourself there. And at some point, you're going to find that some people around you, you can't do anything about, and you're going to have to allow them to figure out what's going to happen to them on their own. And maybe I'm wrong in saying that. Do you agree with that, with what I'm saying there?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. You know, you can't save anybody else. I mean, even myself, I that's probably one of the hardest lessons for me, about not being able to save anybody else other than yourself, really, because I almost died actually doing that. I actually was trying to save somebody else, and I actually ended up, you know, once. It was a dark night of my soul, basically, a long time ago, about 10 years ago now, and you know, I ended up actually, you know, almost dying, and you know, I had a car crash in which I broke my back, you know, and I was in a car that exploded, and I only just managed to survive, basically. And you know, I even had to like get out the car with a broken back and just try to, you know, save myself and stuff. But I remember just laying there, and you know, the rain was like spitting down on my body and stuff, like just spitting. It wasn't raining that fast, and I just remember like the embers of the flames of the fire, you know, from the carnage that just ensued, and I just felt the most overwhelming sense of peace. And that's when I became aware that that overwhelming sense of peace and benevolence that had always been with me in my life was it was me all along. It was me. It was always there, and I was also as powerful and strong as I thought I was, if not stronger, because you know, that was the test really for me. And you know, it just, wow, yeah, you know, I just agree with everything you say. So
wow, see, that's incredible. You're lucky to be alive, right? That's just crazy. But you know what? That was the epiphany. That was the point in your life when you realized that if you try to save other people, and this is my point, what I'm trying to make is it could get to that point where if you're trying to save other people, you could end up losing yourself literally, and maybe even dying. So now I have another question. It looks like it says, the Berg, what do you think about CERN? Is there a real danger there?
Well, CERN's a bit of a weird one, because you know, the collider and stuff. It's right. I don't know. I've seen a few videos like on the Mandela effect and stuff, but I don't. From what I know about reality and stuff, they say that when they switched CERN on, they created a different reality, and then there was like a Mandela effect with certain things within this timeline that changed or stuff. But the truth is that because there's a lot of people in this reality all collectively at the same time, although yes, switching CERN on did create an alternative reality in which we're all within, we're creating and constantly recreating reality every single second and moment, and every single thought, every single thing we do is creating a new reality. So the reality that CERN, you know, switched us onto by actually that small event of switching on, it's been superseded now by billions and trillions of, you know, human thoughts and changing timelines. You know, the timelines aren't set in stone. They're completely shifting all of the time depending on what we do, and we basically can create and dream anything we want. because we have the potential to align with a multitude of infinite possibility at any moment or any time within the timeline, you know. And so it's down to us. It's down to us right now. Whatever we want, we can create, and that's going to be the future. You know, just as what we're doing now, we're putting in the work, we're being present, you know, we're going out there and doing stuff. You know, if everybody was present to themselves, the world will be completely different. There would not be any more governments anymore, because there wouldn't be a space and a context for poison or any toxicity of mind to exist anymore. And that's what people need to do to solve the problem. Just be present to themselves, always, you know. And one of the most powerful ways as well, I think mentioned earlier, that I can mention now is, make sure that each day you spend at least 10 minutes meditation in stillness, complete silence, you know. And also make sure that on every single hour, check in with yourself every single day as well. Make that connection to your higher self, because ultimately it's a higher consciousness that is going to get us out of where we're wanting to go. And as well, higher consciousness, connecting to something greater than yourself, is also because it's going to fulfill your being as well with something, you know, with more energy than you've got capacity for. It's going to make you feel great and fulfill your being and fulfill you and make you feel good as well. So, you know, always take time out for yourself every day, you know, for at least 10 minutes. And if you don't think that you've got time for yourself that day, do it for 20 minutes.
Right. Right. Now, when we were talking about CERN and the collider, you had mentioned the Mandela effect. For those people who don't know anything about that, can you touch on that a little bit and let people know what you meant when you said the Mandela effect?
Yeah, well, the Mandela effect is pretty similar to what we were speaking about earlier, which is like the butterfly effect, where, you know, one small thing can shockwave out, you know, through like ripples within a pond, changing everything. The Mandela effect is kind of like the same similar thing. In the context of CERN, when they switched it on, that was a big event, you know, within that space of, let's call it, you know, the conscious living ocean of one. You know, when that was switched on, it created ripples, you know, ripples going around the pool and stuff. But the Mandela effect, basically, people think that when they switched it on, certain events in the timeline was altered. So, like, saying they released, you know, a movie in like 1932 or something, then the movie in our timeline now, people have the memory of it being released in 1932, but others have a different memory of it being released in 1935 or something. Right. Know? So it's pretty confusing. But, you know, although me personally, you know, I don't think that's true at all. You know, judging by what I know, because, like I said, people are constantly collapsing reality every single split second, every single thought and everything. They're always creating a new potential, and there's an infinite amount of potentials every single moment and minute, you know, from everything that person's doing and every thought that they do that can send reality off in a different direction. So, you know, it means that even if it did create an alternative timeline, that there's so many trillions and billions and, you know, gazillions timelines being created since then that it's not going to really affect anything anyway. So, you know, people need to stop worrying.
Right, and I apologize. I got the blower right outside my window right now, so bear with us for a second, guys, as we let that guy pass my door here. So my mic, I'm sure, is going to come on. You can't hear anything. So give us a moment here while we wait for this guy. It should be done in a minute. Right outside my window. Even with the window closed, that's loud, right? He was literally standing 2 inches outside my window, facing away. So the exhaust was literally hitting my window, and the sound is still coming straight through. I apologize. So, yeah, so just like you were saying with the butterfly effect, hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Let me know, Daniel, if you can hear me okay, even with that noise. Sorry, I think he's going to be hopefully done in a second. I apologize, people, for that. That's just horrible. We have to look into making sure that on Mondays and Tuesdays we maybe try to schedule a little bit later, or I'll go out there and give them one for anyway. So I wouldn't want to do that. So, but like you were saying with the reality and the butterfly effect, and I think that a lot of that, like you were saying, might be hooey anyways. Because I think that our memory sometimes is askew and things change. Although I have had things happen where I remember something happening a certain way, and the rest of the world had it happen a different way, and I've kind of pointed that out. But it was literally, like you were saying, a reality thing. I remember back here in America, there's in basketball here in America, there's a Los Angeles Lakers playing, and in history now, they won 3 championships in a row. I watched them lose the 3rd championship and not win it, and not three-peat. And the next day when I woke up, the headlines showed that they won and that it was a three-peat. And in history now, they won that, but I watched them lose that game horribly and not three-peat. I watched it happen, watched all the people in the arena react to it, everybody, the broadcasters talking about it, and how they just fell apart at the end of the game, and how they didn't win it, and now in history they did win it. So I have no explanation for that, but maybe I dreamt it wrong. I don't know, but I know that when it happened, and I went, wait a minute, they lost, and I looked it up, and they didn't, but I saw them lose. So I can't explain that. That's just a memory that I have in my head, and there's a few other ones throughout time that I've noticed different things have changed slightly, but I don't know if that's just Einstein's viewer-created reality, or if it's a collective consciousness and we have changed things, because we as a whole, and correct me if I'm wrong, we as a whole have the ability to create to do that and fix that. Say, like, if we're concerned that CERN created a reality, well, if it did, it's the reality that we all moved into and we've accepted. Because if we didn't, we would all change that reality, and could, just by all thinking the reality that we want to have. Am I wrong in that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of true, but like, if people want a different reality, they really do need to do the work, because we're all in this together, at the moment. So they need to collectively, consciously move forward. I mean, that's one of the problems. There's, like I said, there's many domains that are intersecting within this world and stuff. Like I said, there's the physical, the mental, the emotional, and spiritual. So you need to be able to, work in all of them environments to bring something about, to make the change and stuff. But it's like we were saying earlier, though. I remember as well. If you want to bring something in, just make sure that you're totally present and to every being, and you engage with every single being fully. The full thing. And you can't save the world, and you can't save another, because attempting to do so is going to destroy you, and it's also going to destroy them. But for each journey back to the Creator, it's a personal one. So you need to do it on a personal level as well. But although you can't save the world and you can't save another, again, you need to just slightly change the questions that you pose. It's the questions that you ask that have to be the right ones to be able to get the right information. Because it's like, if you're asking the wrong question, it's kind of you're creating a context where the answers aren't going to fix the problem, because the question you've asked is the problem. You're asking the wrong question, if you know what I mean. So it's like, you can't save the world and you can't save others, but you can heal the world, heals people's thinking, and be a healer.
Right.
So
right. See, and now I'm getting the 90-minute we need to wrap. So we're running out of time. And it's horrible, because I have more questions, many more questions. I'll talk to you longer. So we'll have to have you back on when there's not guys outside my window doing this, and so we can talk longer and talk about more stuff. But quickly, give us if you have a website, give us a website. Give us the name of both of your books. Tell us where we can find them. Also, give us your YouTube page and your Facebook page. Tell us, everybody, who you are, where we can find you.
Right then, so my name's Daniel Dunn, and I'm Daniel of Doria on YouTube, which is all one word and 2 A's and stuff. And that's also my YouTube channel, Daniel of Doria, which is 2 A's, on YouTube, like it says. And the first book is called Raising Eden, Wisdom of the Eternal, and that came out on the 5th of November, just gone, in 2016. And, that basically covers absolutely everything, with emphasis on spiritual empowerment. And the second book is called Raising Eden, Volume 2, Wisdom of the Singular Truth. And that is also goes into, everything as well, but with a more emphasis on direct spiritual empowerment and building a relationship with your higher self and stuff. But it covers everything as well in itself. And then the third book, I just only finished that like 2 days ago. So I'm in the editing stage and doing the cover art and stuff. So that'll be with everybody within the next few weeks and months. So keep your eyes open, everybody.
Definitely. And guys, go to our website, watchyourtalk.com. Look at our events calendar. Look for today. You can see that Daniel's there, and we have links on our calendar for his stuff, so you guys can go check that out if you couldn't hear with the guy out there. Right. So walking back and forth now, going across the street, and he's blowing everything. So it's just the tailpipe is facing this direction, so it's even louder. So anyway, it was a great conversation. Thank you for taking the time, because I know that you don't normally like to do a lot of interviews, and I hope that this experience and the one that you had on your other interview will get you into where you like doing them more, and you'll do them more, because I'd love to have you back on here. You have another book that's coming out. Once that book hits the market, I'd love to have you back, because it looks like it'll only be in a month or two. Let's have you back on here and talk again, and if we can, because the people, I'm sure, are going to want to hear what you have to say, because I know that this is the message that all of us are putting together and that all of us are putting out there to the people, and everything that we're about here at Watchers Talk. And I know I can say that because I've talked to everybody that's involved in this site of ours and our mindset and our friends' mindsets, the people that we're working with, Portal to Ascension, and Brian Forrester, and all the guys that we're talking to that we've interviewed so far. Even the Strongs in Australia, everybody that we're talking to, Steve Meads, everybody that we're talking to, all of the stuff, even Ildi, who's the manager of the Strongs, everybody we talk to, all is we're realizing now that it's all coming back to this, which is exactly what you're talking about. And we all have to do that, and it's the only way that any disclosure is going to happen about any kind of aliens, or any disclosure about, even if it's not aliens, and it's the history of us and where we came from, because we know they know it. We know they know it, and we know they're hiding it from us. And that history is in our DNA, and the history is in our memory, and the history is in us communicating with our higher self. And the only way that we're going to get there is through guys like Daniel, through guys like me, through guys like Omar, through Sherry, through all of us helping you guys who don't know how to do that. So you guys need to watch us, listen to us, and then ask questions. Don't trust that everything we're saying is true. Go out there and find it for yourself, and look on YouTube and look for other people, because that's how we found each other. Is looking for other people. That's how I found Daniel. Looking for other people that are like-minded, so that we could talk and so we could bring this information to you guys. So go to our website, guys. Take a look at our events calendar. You're going to see we have it chock full of a bunch of other people who think just like we do. And grab our app, download our app. If not, just subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll get the information. You won't see it live unless we broadcast live on YouTube, which we do that sometimes. So you'll get a ping then. Otherwise, guys, do the work. Like Daniel just said, you have to do the work. It's not going to just happen. The only way that you're going to evolve spiritually is that you're going to have to fix yourself. Love yourself first, then you can love the world, you can love everybody else, and then you can fix yourself. Daniel, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, I'll definitely come back as well every few weeks or months.
Yeah, don't hang up. Don't hang up when we get off, because I know that Omar's going to want to talk to you. Okay, so stay on here. We'll wrap the show, and then Omar will come on, and then we can talk. Okay, so guys, thanks for coming, people. This was a great show, and we're going to let you just heard Daniel. He'll come back, so keep looking on our calendar, and you'll find him. If you guys want to find out what's going on with him, you can hear us when he comes back, so keep looking on our calendar. Daniel, thank you. Great show, buddy. Stay tuned. Hold on right here, okay?
Thank you. Will do.